with my class of 17J, friends, family, professors. Thank you so much for making it to the ceremony with all the attention being given to the Fonti ceremony. We really appreciate that you came here and you made us feel special. I would like to extend special thanks to those people whose contribution often goes unnoticed, but without whose our experience would be far less smooth. It is the program support staff. Here in Singapore, it's Jafar, Vicky, Mia, Cindy, especially Cindy. In Abu Dhabi, it's Zaina Sleiman, and I haven't been to Fonti, so I don't know that many people, but I know Sven Biel, Valerie, and Min. Apologies if I missed anyone out because I just couldn't remember. I don't have a speech prepared because I had a very inspirational speech full of life-changing advice, but because the Dean and Parin stood here before me, they already said all the advice that I wanted to say, so just assume that I've given you all the same advice but better. Instead, I'm gonna bother you with unwanted advice and my personal stories. So 4 years ago, I would have never imagined that I'll be standing here today. I was living in UK and I was desperate for any opportunity to go somewhere else because my permit to stay was about to expire and I didn't want to go back to my home country just yet. The opportunity came in the form of English as a foreign language teacher in Singapore. Now, I had no idea what Singapore was at that time. All my knowledge came from Pirates of the Caribbean movie, the third installment, I believe, where they swim around on those boats in this shantytown fishing village. I imagine it's going to be a little different, so after I was admitted and my employment pass was processed, I decided to educate myself on Singapore, so I Googled Singapore, and the headlines and the first results came up. Extreme haze alert. The Ministry of Health recommends everyone to stay inside. The Ministry of Employment recommends, considers a stop work order. It was the summer of the worst haze in Singapore. The PCI levels were off the chart. The pollution was horrible. So I'm sitting there in UK, you know, about to go to Singapore in a couple of days, reading this thing. This is a good start. This is great. Now, luckily, I arrived to Singapore in late August, so the haze has already subsided. I didn't catch haze that year. I caught haze in the coming years, and I realized that that year has the haze in Singapore has nothing on the normal air in my hometown, Taliati, in Russia, very industrial part. So that was nothing. But the surprises didn't stop there. So my first day at work, I arrived to the teaching company that employed me. And I met my boss, who's a super friendly lady. She showed me around, she took me for lunch, she told me how everything works around. And then she sat me down in my classroom, which was my office as well, and she said, actually, we're more of a tuition center than a language center, so we don't want you to teach English as a foreign language like you interviewed for. We want you to teach GMAT. So here's the official guide to GMAT, the dark green 2013 edition. We already booked you for a test in 2 weeks' time, after which you're going to start teaching your first students. If you have any questions, let me know. Let's do lunch together tomorrow, see how it goes. And then she left. So I was sitting there in a tie that was too tight, because this was the first day in my life I wore a tie, and I just watched a YouTube video on how to tie a tie, and I just repeated the steps. It was choking me. I wore shoes that I just bought. They were too small, and they absolutely shredded my feet that day. I was limping for about a week after that. And I'm sitting there flipping through this dark green book, looking at things like, you know, subjunctive mood, restrictive modifier, combinatorics, area of a square, and I was like, well, I thought of a lot of things at that time, but because I want this speech to be put on YouTube, I'm not going to say them all. But the one thing that constantly circled in my mind was, did I make the right choice? Did I come here for a reason? was it a good decision to come here? This is something that I believe some of us are asking ourselves at this day as well, now that the formal phase is gone, now that we're graduating. Have we made the right choice? I'm not going to do the whole sandwich thing, which I'm going to tell you a bunch of nonsense and then get to the conclusion, so I'm just going to say straight away, I believe I did, and I believe we did the right choice by coming here. If I didn't go to that company, I would have never knew about GMAT. Knowing myself, I didn't know what GMAT was, I didn't know what MBA was, I thought it was some sort of accounting course. I'm still not sure if I changed my mind. But without that, I would not be here today. Without that, I would not be here with you and give you this speech. And the INSEAD experience comes in many phases. There is the teaching aspect, there is a networking aspect, and there is a lifelong learning aspect. Now, the previous speakers have already said about the teaching and the other aspects. Let's talk about the lifelong learning. What is the value of INSEAD that I see personally? You will derive yourself in 5 years' time. Don't worry about the kind of jobs you will get after INSEAD immediately. Don't worry about if the academics were up to your standard, if you wanted more challenge, if you wanted more diverse group of crowd, if that's the kind of thoughts you have. Think of it this way. You stood shoulder to shoulder with the future CEOs, the future business leaders, the future entrepreneurs, unicorns, the movers and shakers of the world, and you had the same courses and you managed, you persevered. So this tells you that, I don't need to tell you that you're worth something. You know already that you're worth something, and you're worth quite a lot. Don't worry about the FOMO that we've already discussed. Now is the time to step back and think, what are the decisions that you're going to make that will have an impact in 5, 10, 15 years? If you're graduating without a job, if you're thinking about what kind of firm you will get in and if it's prestigious, don't think about that. Think in 10 years' time, how will you be remembered? When you come to the student reunions and you tell about the things you've done in the last 10 years, think about the kind of impact that will have on people. So if you want to leave your job and pursue an entrepreneurial dream that you've always wanted, I say take the risk, take a calculated risk, please don't be careless, right? If you want to change your geography, if you want to change some other aspect of your life, I say go for it. If you want to retire from the workforce and focus on raising your family or do something else, I say it's your choice and I'm not going to judge you for it, and I hope my cohort will not judge you for it. So with that being said, a few advice I'll give you. Please be active in the INSEAD alumni community. If I sure already you're getting emails and you're getting messages from people saying, hey, I would like to get into INSEAD, can you give me some advice? Is INSEAD a good school? Surely this will accumulate over time as you will go through your career. People will ask you about your job, people will ask you about the sector you're in, people will ask about how do you get into a particular industry. Please give them the time of day. Please include them as part of your network. And if a budding INSEAD graduate in a few years' time will ask you for advice or will ask you to help them with their career somehow, again, don't take unnecessary risks, but do try and help them, because we are part of this community now. And if you want to maximize the value of your MBA, you should continue contributing as much as you can. And I'll give you one advice that I heard from a very prominent alumna of INSEAD. Make sure you donate every year, even if it's a couple of dollars. I know we all have student loans to pay in, but that just sort of keeps the lifeline to INSEAD alumni community, and that also keeps your connection alive. So with that being said, I'll end with a cheesy and inspirational quote in my own style. You're a ghost riding a meat-covered skeleton made out of stardust, sitting on a rock, spinning through space, sitting on a spinning rock, floating through space. Fear nothing. Thank you.
Arseniy.